All right. Good morning, guys. It is September 3rd, 2023, broadcasting Eastern Standard Time at 8:04 in the AM. And thank goodness we're getting out of summer because I'm not a summer guy, too hot. And then we're coming into fall. And when it comes to September, I just consider the whole month Halloween Eve, right? So, a new setup for a while. So let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. And welcome to the Rainy Sunday comic book show. Because on those Sunday mornings as a kid, when it was raining and you couldn't go outside, I got a stack of comic books. I would jump on the bed and I would listen to the rain hitting the roof as I read the comics, guys. So yeah, welcome. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff going on, right? Good morning, John C. Right there. So right off the bat, let's be like John C. Make sure you are subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications so you know when I'm going to do this. It's usually Sunday mornings, but you never know when I do a random thing here or there. And make sure you like the video, share the video, like, subscribe, right? So anyway, yesterday was RobCon 2023. Guest of honor was going to be Jeff Smith. He had a cardiac arrest about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I think. Check out his social media and stuff to see how he's doing. He did the posters, the T-shirts, everything for RobCon. Terry Moore of Strangers in Paradise, Echo, Serial. I know I'm forgetting stuff. He was there. He did a panel. I got to watch, and it's going on today. If you are waking up and you're in the Bristol, if you're in a couple hours drive of Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia. Well, I'll slow down and do all that all over again, right? And Charles Vest was there, who I saw last year, right? RobCon is run by Robert Price. I think it's his name. Pilk, excuse me, Robert Pilk. And he owns Mountain Empire Comics. And for in the comic book shop in the Bristol on State Street, Bristol, Virginia, Bristol, Tennessee. And basically, he has been running his own comic book convention for decades now, right? I actually remember when he was on State Street at the Paramount Theater, and he held it in the lobby of the theater. And I set up 2 years in a row right there, more or less close to the sidewalk on State Street. And it's grown since then. Viking Hall 10 years ago in Bristol, Kingsport at a stadium there. And now he's at the Highlands Learning Center in Abingdon. This is the second year that I'm aware of he's doing it, right? So it's going on now. And today at one of the panels, they're going to have Charles Vest and Terry Moore doing a Q&A session. Yesterday, we set in on a how to draw session, and I got a question or two in there. JLS Comics is popping in, and the Geeky Puppet Show is in. My two early warriors, everyone. It's just me. It's just me with this smiling face. If you can handle that this morning, man. Good to see you here this morning. So, anyway, as we are talking, oh, it's a miracle I'm even awake this early. It's a miracle that we wake up every day, I swear, I think. So, I feel you. So, anyway, if you are watching this now, they start. They're going to get started. And I'm going to give shout outs to people I've seen there so we can get to the books and stuff because I bought a ton. And I actually spent money on one book, which was amazing. I spent too much money. This is two in a row. And for you long time viewers, before I do the shout outs to the people and stuff, can you hear me? Number one, because the mic is acting funny. And number two, and it could be the guy running it. I don't know. And number two, if you're looking for the Hillsville Flea Market haul that I usually do, that is huge, where I'm, usually every year, we sacrificed the Hillsville Flea Market this year. I've been doing this thing over 20 years going to that flea market. And Hillsville Flea Market is where twice a year, Memorial Day and Labor Day, they turn the entire town into a flea market. And I chose to go to RobCon this year. Okay. Maybe that was the right choice. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I haven't had feedback. Okay. So there'll be no Hillsville Hall. I do that twice a year. And I know there's people just clamoring for that. So anyway, buddy Josh went down there, man. Good to see you down there. He showed up. We right when I had found this fantastic um, vendor who brought half his collection down, and they were dollar books. You're not going to believe what I found in that. And then we saw Josh Prune. Shout out to Prune. He's a guy from way back in the high school days. He has staff that helps out with RobCon. Saw Curtis and Rod. Curtis and I go back to high school with the comic book stuff, the art stuff, Star Wars stuff. We went to a few Heroes Cons together in the early 2000s with the whole crew. A guy named Rod. Rod used to own Moonlight Comics. I actually have a comic here laying around with the stamp of his store in the 90s that we used to go to. Great guy. I got to see him. And for the two people who recognized me as Howler Mouse, I'm sorry, I'm going to blank on your name, but we had a lot going on. It was great to see you. I'm trying to think anything else. So yeah, I met Terry Moore, got a few things signed by him. That was cool. And if you don't have me on Instagram, make sure you have me on Instagram because I'm putting up pictures of the comics and of Terry Moore, and I got a few more to put on today. I'm just kind of pacing it out. Howler Mouse on Instagram on the rerun, and the link should be down there if you don't want to do the typing. Oh, and speaking of miracles, maybe we ought to change this to the miracle show. I'm waiting on the miracle. I'll wake up with an amazing Spider-Man #1 on my pillow next to me. I don't know if that'd be an act of God. I think that'd be an act of a creeper who's, stalking you because of your YouTube channel. And good morning, JLS Comics, brother. Good to see you. Oh, thanks, man. We have 4 of these. As if you're just popping in, I consider September Halloween Eve. Yeah, little Jimmy Fireball. Good to see you, brother. And everybody, say good morning to John C. over here. Yeah, everybody. So we're going to get this started. I think the early crew is either here or they're not, or they'll be coming in. So anyway, RobCon, very much worth it this year, as we're going to see. And let's get going here. Now we're going to go out slow, and I'm going to show you some of the amazing things I found in the dollar boxes. This is the second time where people are using their apps, their COZ apps, which is cool. That's what I use on our phone. And then people are using, I can't remember what they told me. You guys will probably know what it is because I don't follow the clown. But anyway, they're using a collector's app that I know shows keys and stuff right there. So competition's getting fierce and stuff. It's turning into where like I'm showing up and I'm like the runt of the litter. All the pig is laid out and all the piglets are taking or suckling on every part of the body there, and I'm in the back trying to just elbow in and stuff. And despite still finding good stuff without having to use an app, and stuff like that, it's one of those things where I'm like, let it go. Don't think about what's not there. Don't think about what you missed and stuff, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is that they're still out there. There's a lot of feel-good guys. There's still guys where you meet, you don't know each other, you do a little small talk, and you help each other find little books. They'll mention what they're looking for. We're all in this together. And now we're getting the greedy and the arrogant kind in there, right? And you just kind of got to be Lebowski about it. Just let it go, let them go through, do their thing. Hot books fluctuate, and that's what they don't get. A lot of people wasting a lot of money instead of enjoying the hobby. It's their thing. Let them do it. Go for it. Whatever. Things will fall across, and when you see some of the books I got, you'll get what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's enough lecturing. I'm going to step off my soapbox. I'm going to drink a cup of coffee, and we're going to start out slow with the books, and they'll build up if I've stacked them up right. So anyway, so there's a thing I'm noticing here, and well, for years, the last couple of years, I've been talking about, and I don't make the hate videos, or every now and then I'll have a little something to say, or I'll read something that really just pisses me off because it's so bad. But I think there's some moderation here on this channel. But one of the things I've been saying for the years is comics from the last at least 10 years, a majority of them, people are starting to get on board. People are finally kind of agreeing, saying there's some great indie books back there and stuff, but this has gone along enough where there's like not a lot of denial anymore. And there's a lot of people that I have, subscribe to that have quit. They've quit making videos and stuff, and they're reactionary. They're I'm actually seeing them do other things in real life and stuff, and moving on and doing their thing and doing back issues and stuff. There's no more defending it, right? And one of the things I've always said is state of comic books. I love the new universe. My new universe video I did as a live stream because the pandemic was going on is picking up. It seems to fluctuate because one of the things I've said is the state of comics and the writing of them the last, I don't know, since 2015 at least, we'll say, has made the new universe books of the later 80s look like Shakespeare. You know what I mean? Like, this looks like the good stuff. And I'm not joking. There's a little bit of a buzz of people going out. And I know it's a lot of people collecting dead universes and trying to find things to collect in their hobby because they love this hobby. They love reading comics. But the new universe is kind of picking up. Now, that is not speculation. That does not mean they're key books. That does not mean they're ever going to be worth anything. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. So I was there during the new universe. I had quite a few of those books. I still have the books, the computer, the box that I am propping this computer up right now. It's a short box full of the new universe stuff. Starbrand is actually one of my favorite series ever to read, to enjoy, right? So I'm backing up and I'm picking up things that I have gotten rid of over time, or I'm filling in gaps, but I'm going for it. Merc is a series that I don't know if I want to get all of them. I have number one. I read them as they came out. Peter David doing some writing, Grave Morrow doing the art, uh, Mike Zeck doing some covers. So I don't. I just remember not really. New universe is set in the real world. 1 year of time in the book for us is supposed to travel in the book, and a few of the books try to do it each a month would pass between issues and stuff. They all didn't really do that. They tried to. So I'm like filling in gaps. Cyforce, DP7, Starbrand. I was there for all of those. I liked them. I got them off the rack. I was 13 years old when this started. They advertised it with Marvel's 25th anniversary. If you weren't around in '61, here's your chance in '86. And of course, the thing just fell flat despite becoming profitable at the end. So we're filling in gaps. I didn't have Cyforce number 10. I've got a whole big run of Cyforce. So there's number 10 with the Cyhawk. And I'm telling you guys, check out my Instagram because just about a week or two ago, Fred Hembeck, if you know who that is, he does these sketch cards, and he's been doing it for over a decade. I've shown him off here that I've gotten, but all of a sudden he's gotten really hot on those. I don't know if it's the original art or what's going on, but I have him on Facebook, and he'll post 5 at a time on eBay. They start at $9.99, and he posts maybe twice a week, and they keep going. And I posted it. I took a screenshot of eBay, but he did the Cyhawk, and that thing went for something like $229, $225 for a sketch card of a new universe Cyhawk from Cyforce. Now, I want you to take that in. People are completing their card sets of the Cyforce and new universe stuff, right? This is what I'm trying to tell you. There's a buzz out there of collectors. Okay. And then I got my Nightmask. This is a number one. I picked these up because I had them. I got rid of them. And there's a lot of great people that worked on these books. Number one, almost all of these are newsstand UPCs, since that's a thing. But I got 1 through 12. I already had number 7, which I should have picked up the UPC one. But you had like Mark Bagley coming out on this, Archie Goodwin drawing it, Paul Ryan. Oh man, I went through this. I've got some pictures I might post. It goes into people's dreams. All right. He had a scar from during the white event. He was in a coma during the white event. This kid here, I think he had a scar of a crescent moon between his eyes. And when the white event hit, he woke up and he can enter people's dreams. This is 1986. 2 years later, we would have Sandman. Like, they were right there. You know what I mean? They were almost right there. Right. So yeah, check that out. Nightmask. You go in there, but there's a lot of good stuff in here playing around with, and it's very 80s. It's very of its time. Mark Texera did some great stuff on here. They put in a lot of talent through here. Roy and Dan Thomas came back from DC and started on this book. It was sort of the seeds of them coming back before, he returned to Marvel, and they did things like West Coast Avengers and Doctor Strange. So yeah, this stuff is of its era. And but I love some of the covers. I mean, they are just fantastic, at least to look at. I mean, I dig them. And they're cheap. They are so cheap. This came from a lot where I got something like 35 to 37 comics, and I got them for $29. That's the thing with all of these, right? So yeah, hopefully these are showing up. But like I said, I really dig a lot of the covers more than the story inside with some of them. Oh, what is this? Okay. So if you were New Universe, this segues really well. New Universe was Jim Shooter's thing about the getting all this stuff in and starting the real world and building upon the building blocks of superheroes in the real world, right? So things happen. He was dismissed from Marvel, and he started Valiant Comics, and Valiant Comics was in the real world and got gold key characters. And I'm telling you, the Jim Shooter era of Valiant is gold. Led up to Unity, this great crossover that happened, right? So then Acclaim came in, and in the midst of them coming in and as being part of the deals, Jim Shooter with his business partners and names and things like that got pushed out. And a lot of people left with him, and they went to Defiant Comics, right? So then I think it was 2000, 2001, he came back to do Unity 2000. 3 issues came out. It never got completed, as far as I know. And I got issue 1 and 2 here of Unity 2000, where we get to see what happened to Shadow Man. Shadow Man had a prophecy where he found out from people in the future, tying into Magnus Robot Fighter, that he was going to die in 1999. And he found this out in 1992. So he started getting reckless and doing things because he already knew when he was going to die. What would you do if you knew when you were going to die? What year? Not how, but when. So they answered a few questions about how that happened, right? Now, what's interesting about this one is that this is the, whoops, wrong one. This is the Dynamic Forces cover that's a little bit more collectible if you're into this, right? And for reasons they didn't finish this series, right? But check this out. This comes off, and there's the regular stand edition of Unity #1. But I don't understand this because, like, there's no staples. This thing has no holes in it. There's never any staples. But this is the Dynamic Forces cover. So is that what they did for a Dynamic Forces cover? They just wrapped another cover around it? I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I enjoyed it. Jim Shooter, Jim Starlin doing the art, revisiting the Valiant. That was like hot back in the day. It was fantastic. What is this? How did you like the Gray Morrow art on Merc? I'm a Gray Morrow fan. His stuff he did in Penthouse Comics and Zatanna and stuff, I'll get it. Gray Morrow is Gray Morrow. If you like Gray Morrow, it's Gray Morrow on Merc. So yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Sorry guys, my leg fell asleep. I have the pins and needles going on now. Oh, yep. Nightmask as the Dream Warrior going into the dreamscape. I mean, how many 80s movies can we reference when it comes to dreams? You know, a lot of those movies you thought were dreams, they weren't, like Labyrinth and stuff. The kid sounds like Freddy. He's the anti-Freddy. Yeah, good stuff. Good old Mark Hazard. Yeah, a lot of love being shown for the new universe. Yeah, check out a few of them. The John Byrne Star Brand. I really recommend those. I enjoy those. All right. Okay. So what else do we have here, right? So, oh, so there was a series. There's IDW got a lot of licenses, right? And they had like Doctor Who crossing over with Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, crossing over with Green Lantern, and then they had this Star Trek series that I have 2 through 5. Now I pre-ordered the books, didn't pay attention, and this isn't the classic Star Trek, with William Shatner and them. This is the new one, the J.J. Abrams one, right? They crossed over with Green Lantern, right? It was called the Spectrum War. So I already had the books, and for some reason I missed #1 or something, right? Old pre-ordering. And I got a #1, opened it up, read it, and then got to #2, and this made no sense, right? So this is one of the covers for Star Trek versus Green Lantern with the J.J. Abrams crew, right? And it's a 6-issue miniseries. And when I read it, I'm very confused because when I got to #2, it was like it's a whole new story. And that's because it was. They had 2 volumes, 2 different 6-issue miniseries, which means this thing must have been a hit. This is the Spectrum War #1 to go with my 2 through 6. I don't remember what the other one was. And here we go again with Lester the cat doing things he knows he should not be doing. So this is your entertainment and chaos effect with it. Lester, get down. Get down. Go on. Come on. Oh, hold on, guys. Come on. Say hello. Yep, that's Lester. He's just showing off. He wants clicks. He wants a fandom, right? So then, moving on here to some other stuff we got. We finished another run that I wanted, right? Not a complete set, but another run. I'm done. Okay. But there's an artist that I discovered during Amalgam in the late 90s where DC and Marvel merged their universes for some fun with DC versus Marvel. And this guy did an issue of Spider Boy and the Legion of Galactic Guardians and stuff, right? So anyway, he came on and he ended up doing a run on Cable in the 90s and stuff, right? Early 2000s, I think, right? So I think he was on the book over a year. I just want the Ladron issues. He's sort of like Mobius meets Kirby while still doing his own thing. And these issues were very hard to find. Number 62, no big deal. We got a little Nick Fury going back, Joe Casey writing this stuff. And then it was this issue here, number 63, that I cannot figure out why it was so hard to find for years. So I'm like, oh, it's Strife. So it must be two Liefeld characters meeting X-Men thing or something, right? And he turns around and I get in here and I finally get the book and it's done by Stephen Platt. And Stephen Platt was a guy who got super hot because he was like McFarlane to the 10th degree doing Moon Knight, ran off to do Prophet. But in this one, it's like he's drawing like Larry Stroman meets Kevin Nolan meets somebody else. I can't put my finger on it. So whoever this Stephen Platt is, man, he is a great mimic that can enhance things. I think it's kind of funny. We have Ladron, who is Kirby and Mobius doing his own thing. And then we have another fill-in artist that comes in and he does his own thing, bringing in 2 or 3 artists and stuff, right? But anyway, I remember enjoying the story. I finally get to lift it up and read these things complete. James Robinson of Starman started a story that ran up to, I think, issue 50. And then I think Joe Casey came in and did his own thing with the same team there for a while, right? So that's just fun comic stuff, right? And then one of the books that I have, I'm doing this thing now where I'm getting, I should have already had this, and I may already have this. I don't know, right? But it wasn't in my app. But I was there from the beginning with this. Crisis led to Legends. Legends led to Justice League. 5 years of a hit book that ended up having lots of spin-offs and everything in annuals and all sudden stuff, right? But this is annual number 3 from Justice League, and it has great Mike McCone art. Keith Giffen, James DeMantis writing it. 5 years of gloriousness of wahahas of Justice League. In the grim and gritty 80s, they came out with a funny book with heroes and stuff, sprinkled with some very serious fights and tragedies and stuff every now and then, right? Now, the significance of getting this is a few weeks ago. It's probably behind me. I got the Hawk and Dove annual that has Teen Titans in it. It was a West Coast Titans of the 70s reunion, if you will. And I always thought that was in a Teen Titans book. So I finally found it. So it has Who's Who pages. And if you remember, I'm big into the reference material, the Who's Who's, the official handbook of the Marvel Universe and things like that. As a matter of fact, I've got my Who's Who on the shelf on the very end here to reference and stuff, right? But it turns out all the DC annuals of 1989 have Who's Who pages exclusive to these annuals. They had an omnibus come out, and I have no idea if they pulled them out of here, right? So, yeah, now that I know about this, I'll be picking up every annual from DC from 1989 because of their Who's. Now, before you clamor out there to get these, as I know you want to now, basically it's still funny how they did this, because instead of bringing in new heroes like Crimson Fox and doing a Who's Who on them and things like that, in this, they did the staff of the embassy for Justice League International, because I got closer and saw this isn't Justice League America annual number 3. This is Justice League International number 3. Okay. You had Justice League, and it turned into Justice League America. Then it went Justice League International when they went Justice League Europe got its own book. Then they came out with Justice League Quarterly. And I'm sure there's other things. One shots with Huntress, one shots with this. Yeah, just a lot of stuff, right? So this title changed names 3 or 4 times, right? So anyway, there you go. I get to stick that in my box. I'm bound to have everything they did by now, that 5 years of Justice League. All right. So this is one of the things I'm going to have to contain myself as we talk about it and stuff, right? Because I cannot believe I found these in dollar boxes, right? But I'm a huge Legion fan, and I like how I'm always like, I'm not going to kill you with the Legion fans because I rarely meet Legion of superhero fans in real life. I'll talk about them. People will get interested in them. I'll be out with people like Charleston 66 and a few people, and if we're at a con together, I know exactly what books to pull them in. And once people read Legion, it seems like they're fans and stuff, right? But I never really see people doing videos on the Legion. Excuse me, videos on the Legion of superheroes, nor talking about them. So I always feel like it's this exclusive corner in comic fandom, kind of like Commandy in the 90s and stuff, right? You either a fan or you weren't. It wasn't all over the place. And people are also surprised. And the last time I mentioned them in a video where I said they had their own cartoon in the 2000s and stuff, right? Which I really enjoyed. And I went back. I have it on Amazon Prime in a wish list or something in case I want to get it. It's on Blu-ray for the 2 seasons. The thing went sideways in season 2. We'll just leave it there, right? But anyway, the first season I really enjoyed, right? So I decided to see if anybody had them on YouTube, and they had the opening for the Legion of Superheroes. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, I was just so damn happy to have a Legion of Superheroes cartoon that apparently I was very forgiving. You know what I mean? But check it out. I dug it. I really dug it, right? Second season, like I said, I feel like they went off the rails, man. I mean, I never thought I would see Timberwolf, the original Wolverine, um, in a cartoon. I never thought I'd see Brainiac in a cartoon. I never thought I'd see Bouncing Boy, and then my favorite Legionnaire, Ultra Boy, in a cartoon. It was fantastic. Okay. So anyway, Legion of Superheroes finally had a bit of a renaissance, and it was because of DNA, Abnett and Lanning coming on and taking over the Legion of Superhero books. They had Legionnaires, they had Legion of Superheroes. I'm not going to get into all the reboots and give you the history and stuff like that, right? But they came in, and then they did this 12-issue miniseries that led to their new series just called Legion. Are you following me? Did your eyes cross yet? But they had a miniseries that like popped, right? It was like finally, after 45 years or whatever it was at the time, Legion really finally sort of popped. They popped in the 80s. There's a run of Legion superheroes, the Darkness Saga, and a few things. I can pull out Legion stories that are right up there with Claremont and Byrne on X-Men and Perez and Wolfman on Titans. But anyway, they kind of popped. Legion Lost was 12-issue series where couple members of the Legion were lost in space, if you will. Anyway, and they came back and they kind of went mainstream. So this was an issue I was missing, 122. Abnett and Lanning, of course, DNA, the writing team, where they were still together, did some amazing stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy and, Marvel's hero stuff, sci-fi stuff. And in the midst of all this, they were sort of expanding on the Legion and looking at the universe and playing around with things. And they came out with this, I think it was a 5-issue miniseries. No, it was 6 in 2001. 5 issues of which each one were more or less a one-shot where they explored a hero in the world they came from. And for some reason, this one of Karate Kid has been very hard to find. If you're a Legion fan, they really do a lot of universe building and reference a lot of planets and stuff. And then we have Legion of Superheroes number 100 with Alan Davis, Paul Levitz, Walt Simonson, a little bit of a celebration. Got some World's Finest. I always sort of wanted this one, Composite Superman, with the Legion of Superheroes guest starring with Batman and Superman. This should be pre-Crisis. And if you don't know who the Composite Superman is, check this out, right? Instead of worrying about changing history and playing by the rules and things like that, Superman and Superboy and all this stuff like that would go into the future with the Legion, 1,000 years in the future, and somebody created a ray. that would like scan you and make a little statue of you. And they brought it back. They made one of each Legion of Superheroes, stuck it in a museum. And what they found out is not only did the ray make you a little statue, but it put your powers in it. And this janitor in the museum, something happened where the statues blew up and he absorbed all the powers of the Legion of Superheroes. And he decides to look like a composite of Superman and Batman with chameleon boys. You can't make this stuff up. Well, actually, somebody did make it up. So anyway, the composite Superman. And believe it or not, there are people out there, there's a little tiny little cult following for the composite Superman. Moving on. And if you are into the Legion of Superheroes, one of the more important stories that they've really, even though the execution is still a DC Bronze Age comic, let's get that out there, okay? But issue 241 to 245 of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes has the Earth War. And the Earth War is sort of a benchmark in the history of Legion of Superheroes that they reference a lot. Siobhan was a science police officer who ended up having a relationship with Element Lad and popped up quite a bit in Giffen and Levitz's run that would come from this and stuff. But yeah, those are 4 issues that are really part of. They really milked a lot out of there, right? Like it was a big deal. But you had the Earth War come on. So yeah, I picked up some upgrades of those. Yeah. So this is just fun stuff, right? A Whitman variant. This is the last issue of Superboy, which they turned into Superboy and the Legion. And then in issue 250, I think the next issue would become the Legion of Superheroes proper. Superboy got pushed out of his own book and got another book called The New Adventures of Superboy at the time, right? But a Whitman variant for $1. And then this is one that is a key book. This is in Mylar. It's got a $6 tag on it, but it was in the dollar boxes. But the League of Assassins and the first appearance of Block. And Block had a bit of a fan following also from Legion of Superheroes people. And that is my Legion of Superhero talk. I did well. I kept it in. I restrained. I didn't take you through all the histories and didn't really geek out too hard there, right? Awesome. What we got here? I knew it. My cat Lester has fans. Thank you, little Jimmy Fireball. I'll let him know it's going to make his day. Jared Osborne's here. Cats are going to climb. You as well make him his own trail. You would not believe what he scratched up on my door frames. I'm freaking out a little bit. Oh, yeah, cables are great. Thanks. Yeah, like I said, that's a great run of cable. It really is. So I'm glad. Can't go wrong with Platt. We got some Stephen Platt fans. Like I said, I didn't get it, but I had a few of the Moon Knight keys that he did. So Pete Townsend should narrate the Who's Who. Oh, I see what you did there. That's funny. I enjoyed Justice League, and the fight between Batman and Guy Gardner was a classic issue. I remember I picked it up as a kid. Yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorite issues. And then that actual cover of who was it? Shazam and Martian Manhunter holding Guy Gardner back. That was an homage. That was homage by Doom Patrol and a few other places and stuff, right? So yeah, that the One Punch Batman fight is a classic, and I feel like James Gunn is going to reference that somewhere in his movies, DC movies, since he's casted Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know. I haven't really kept up with it. Sequential Geek is here. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I was just looking up info on Tales of Legion of Superheroes. Nice. I want to restrain myself. Okay. Sequential Geek, last issue, 354. Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah, that was the run that they ended. That started out as Superboy, turned into Superboy and Legion, and then it was Legion, and then Tales of around issue 320 or something, where they reprinted the Baxter series a year out or something like that. Yeah. There we go. Yep, he's got it all right here, guys. I'll leave that comment up. All right. So here's some stuff that I couldn't believe was in dollar boxes yet again, right? Same place, I think, with some of these, except for these right here, right? But I like Alex Ross covers, right? I've already opened this up, thought I was going to read it. I think this is from 2021, 2020 or something like that, but it's one of the volumes of X-Men 23. wait a minute, X-Men number 13. And it's got the timeless Alex Ross cover on it of Cyclops there, right? For a while there, Cyclops actually was one of my favorite characters before they really turned him into a whiny little bitch. And all this other stuff they did with him, right? But there for a while, that when I got into it, so yeah, I got this simply because it's Alex Ross doing a proper Cyclops, right? There's actually weight to that visor and the ruby, the ruby quartz in it and everything like that. And I did it. I opened it up last night, made it about 2 or 3 pages in, and I'm like, this is just going to piss me off. So we moved on, right? I was like, oh my God. And I don't know why I got this. I got this for $1. I already have one downstairs. I bought it when it came out off the rack. I think I even have Evan Dorkin. I think he's actually signed this for me, right? But this is Superman and Batman, a one-shot I highly recommend. Of the world's funnest, not world's finest, world's funnest. But what happens is, if you look at this cover, you see all those versions of Batman and Superman piled up, and you see Mxyzptlk, and you see Batmite, and they are having a fight, and they go through all these different realities, and there's so many artists and stuff, right? There's Kingdom Come pages in here, brand new by Alex Ross. And so many other people and stuff, right? They really should have advertised all the people that are in this book. As a matter of fact, maybe, just maybe, I should do a whole video on this now that I have 2 copies. I don't like opening these square bound prestige format books there because for a while what happens is they just put a crease. They just put like a crease down the front of the cover so you can open it. But as time goes, it makes color breaks and things like that. There are certain books I could be anal with and stuff like that, but that's what happens with this book, right? So yeah, but there's Alex Ross is in here, and let me show you give you a taste of what I'm talking about, right? And I'm trying to think what year this came out. Oh, they got it on the back here, right? So as they fight, they're going through multiple Earths, if you will, right? And here's some George Perez new Crisis on Infinite Earth pages where they're going through there. Okay. Let me find the Kingdom Come pages. They're my favorite. Here they are. Brand new Alex Ross Kingdom Come pages with Mxyzptlk in there. So here's the people that are on this, and it does have Dark Knight pages. I'm 99% sure, right? Evan Dorkin, of course, of Milk and Cheese fame, Beast of Burden fame, if you know that book with the animals protecting the hill from witches and Satan and stuff. But Evan Dorkin, Mike Allred, Brian Boland, Frank Cho, Stephen DeStefano, Dave Gibbons, Jamie Hernandez of Love and Rockets fame, guys. Stuart Amonin, Phil Jimenez, Doug Mank, David Mazzucchelli, one of my favorites, Frank Miller, Alex Ross, Scott Shaw, Norm Rampood, Ty Templeton, Bruce Timm, and a few other people and stuff right on the back. Here you go. So lots of great stuff. So when I talked to Evan Dorkin about this, it turns out he's taken his copy. I'm positive it was him. But anyway, he's taken his copy to all these comic conventions over the years. He got almost everybody to sign his copy, and I could have kicked myself because this came out in. Oh, look at that, man! Even Darkseid pops up here with a Kirby-esque tribute there. This came out in the year 2000, so that's probably like 16 or 17 Heroes cons, 2 Baltimore cons, and tons of other little cons that I've went to that I could have probably ran into some of these people and got them to sign this. All right, get that tape off later. Let's put that to the side because that's becoming a pain. But that's a fun book. That's one of the books that I recommend you get because it's cheap and good. All right. And now this is a bittersweet find in a way. It kind of reminded me of a better time in comics, in my opinion. But these are 3 issues of Amazing Heroes I found for $1 a piece, which are always fine and dandy, right? So these are from the early 90s. And of course, we have Amazing Heroes with their news, The World of Ghost Rider. And it doesn't matter how much you Google, how much you Wikipedia. I do recommend picking up things like this, Comic Scene, Amazing Heroes, and things like that, because once you get into digging through these, if you're really into trivia and comic book history and things like that, there are things in these and anything in print, in my opinion, where it's not going to make it to the Wikipedia pages. Artists, creators are talking about things that inspired them and little things they wanted to do that just don't make it in there, right? So that's why these are so much fun. Amazing Heroes, and I flipped through these. There were things I was going to really open up for you guys to show you some cool stuff, but I didn't bookmark them, and I was pretty tired last night. Okay, so yeah, Alan Davis interview. It's got his bibliography in here at the time, going all the way up to like 1991. And then here's the one, right? This is the last issue of Amazing Heroes, and it's a flip book. We get a lot of Paul Chadwick interview with Concrete, him saying goodbye. And it's a flip book with Batman, Lobo, Stephen Bissett. Oh, not Stephen Bissett. Oh, man. What is his name? Why am I going blank? Sam Keith art. Holy crap. He's one of my favorite artists. What can I be going to bring? Anyway, a little bit of Batman and Lobo stuff. Alan Grant interview. Oh my God. Simon Bisley. Dear God. Is it that early? And we get a lot of behind the scenes stuff for a lot of TV shows that came out in the 70s. Like talking about the Captain Marvel show, the Shazam show. Talking about the stars, catching up with them in 1981. I met the dude that played the actual Captain Marvel on the Shazam Saturday morning live action filmation show and stuff, and he was an asshole. So yeah, I have no problem with that. Asshole. All right. Sequential Geek is all over the comments. Y'all check out his comments. All right. Okay. And then as we go through there, we're going to have to move on here. We're going to be here all day. I got things to do. But anyway, Welcome Back Kotter books. I'm really getting a kick out of these. I keep finding these cheap. There's only like 9 or 10 of these made. And I'm just old enough to where I barely can remember the John Travolta era of Welcome Back Kotter, right? And it's on Tubi or something. I've got some streaming channel where they're for free. They're on there for free. So I've been watching them, and they are of their era, and they were funny. And one of the things that I have found with Welcome Back Kotter, if you can find it online and do a little digging, but apparently in the early 90s, the Adam Sandler, Chris Farley years, the second time that I think Saturday Night Live was actually funny consistently. They did this thing where John Travolta was hosting Saturday Night Live, and they mixed Pulp Fiction. Well, they mixed Welcome Back Kotter if it was written by Quentin Tarantino. I thought it was funny. You can tell the sketch fell flat, but I thought it was hilarious. And they were the sweat hogs in a Quentin Tarantino movie. They were doing little Reservoir Dogs, if you will, there, right? And at the end of it, the sketch is saved by Lenny and Squiggy showing up. Yes, Lenny and Squiggy showed up and interacted with the sweat hogs, if you will. But it's the actual Lenny and Squinty because Mike McKenna, he was a writer on the show and did some sketches and stuff like that. He was the main player there, right? So he made the call and got Squiggy. So we had Lenny and Squiggy on Saturday Night Live with the Sweat Hogs. My second copy of this, of course, I'm going to get this for $1, but here's a Superboy Neil Adams book. And it seems like in the 70s, there was a lot of turning people into bats. There's a World's Finest with Batman being turned into a man bat. There was Man Bat, and then there was Superboy as Man Bat, if you will. All drawn by Neil Adams. But like I said, I'm pretty sure this is just the cover that Neil Adams did. For $1, you got that right. And it actually says $9 on it, but the guy was selling it for $1. And this guy came out of Fredericksburg, Virginia, drove all the way down. It's probably a 5 or 6 hour drive. He said he's got a huge shop up there. He was giving out flyers. The flyers may pop up falling in between these books or something, right? And he just brought like letters, what did he say, M through Z. He didn't even bring the first half of his collection. So again, this is the collection where I'm like, I'm going to think about, I'm not going to think about what I missed, because there's a lot more to get out of there, right? Freedom Fighters number 15, Phantom Lady. You got people who are into Headlight comics. You either know what Headlight comics are or you don't, because I've said it many times over the years, but they're Phantom Lady Headlight comics fans, right? And this has the origin of Phantom Lady, plus it's the last issue. Tor. I think there was like 6 issues of Joe Kubert doing Tor. And like I said, if it's a caveman or Bigfoot or post-apocalyptic comic, I'm going to grab it and stuff. The Joe Kubert Tor books with caveman are just fantastic. Batman Year 1000. Now, this book I looked up when it came out, and I'm probably going blank here again, but this book is one of those books where I'm like, I'll pick it up later. When it came out, there was a lot of stuff going on. A lot of great books coming out. Grant Morrison, I believe, was starting on Batman. I'll have to go back and really look and stuff. Got to see what year it came out, but I want to say this was like 2006 or 7, and Paul Pope popped for a while. So I was like, I got an issue 3 and 4. I'll back up. I'll get 1 and 2 eventually. And then he came out with there was a Commandy pitch that he did, and he couldn't do it, so he went on and made a indie book called Battle Boy. And if you read between the lines, that's a Commandy pitch he did. Also, Kurt Busiek did a Commandy pitch, and that ended up being Autumn Lands, Tooth and Nail. They wouldn't let him touch him. But anyway, so I'm always like, I'll pick this up later. I'll pick this up later. Well, here we are, probably around 18 years later, and I've yet to do it. It's time. This is what I'm saying. It's time to pick up. I did this with Cerebus. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's been 20 years. I need to, go ahead and just read all of Cerebus, which I did and stuff like that, pick this stuff up. But time flies by when it comes to comics. Anyway, Paul Pope was a player there for a while. This was a giveaway. Do not let the video fool you as you look at this. This thing is beat up, unattached, detached from the staples, but the inside is perfectly there. This is a case of low grade is better than no grade, than not having it. And when I paid for the books out of the dollar boxes, I showed it to the dealer. And I was like, why don't you just throw this in? Look at this. And so this was a freebie. This is what I'm getting at, but not brand Eck. And I've been rebagging some comics. So if you go to my Instagram, you're going to see some of my not brand Eck books that are in much better shape and stuff, right? But this stuff is gold. The late 60s, seeing this stuff with a bit of pop culture and trying to do they kind of salt a few underground comic things out there throughout this and stuff. A little wink and a nod to some Mad Magazine, EC Comics, and things like that. You totally get why there are certain things from the 60s that are cooler than today, in early 70s, right? I don't know a lot about Darth Vader. I just really saw this was a first print by looking at the UPC symbol, and that is a cool Darth Vader. As time has gone by, as I have lived through the many stages of Star Wars and the glut that's come out, and the wanting more and the excitement of them being re-released in 97 before we got the prequels, with the disappointment that I felt of the prequels, except for Attack of the Clones. There's bits and pieces in there I thought was a great chapter. And going all the way back to when I was a kid, I used to brag on here that I was right there in 1977 watching Star Wars. And then I found out that theaters could get movies at any point in time that they really wanted, and they'd hold them for 6 months sometimes because it was very different back then. So I probably saw Star Wars somewhere between 77 and the end of 78. So I don't know exactly when I saw it, but I still saw it before Empire. And then I didn't get to see Empire. I've told that sad story before. I've come to an age where I like getting older because I can just settle in and know what I like and not have to worry about what people think. Not that I did that much anyway, you know what I mean? But I don't feel like the need to argue about it and stuff. That's probably what I mean. I don't feel the need to defend it or argue about it when it comes up, but you just need the original trilogy. In Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, not before it's called The New Hope. That's all you need of Darth Vader. He was the baddest MFer in the universe and always will be. So I love one of my favorite pop culture characters is Darth Vader, the bad guy, not the poor little guy. So yeah, I'm having a little bit of fun with these Star Comics and toy comics and comics based on cartoons and these licensed properties and stuff, and revisiting them and stuff, right? But yeah, you're seeing it right. Mad Balls #2 and whatever this is, #6. Yeah. So yeah, having some fun with these, right? And there's nothing like realizing. I remember in 2009, I had my son who's turning 11, I think. Does that sound right? Yeah, about 11. He was somewhere between 11 and 12 there. You get what I'm saying? But I had him at a Toys R Us while walking around, and he went on to the next aisle, and I stopped, and I'm like, oh, wow, they brought Mad Balls back. And I just hear him snicker because he's at that age where everything sounds dirty. So, and then I've had #1 of this forever and a beat up #2, right? But this is Defenders of the Earth. Horrible cartoon that came out. All right. I don't even try to defend that cartoon, right? But this is where you have all these key syndicate characters come together. Flash Gordon, Mandrake the Magician, the Phantom. Yeah, I think that was it, right? And I'm down for all that stuff. I love all those classic characters. And this was a 4-issue. I don't know if it was meant to be a 4-issue miniseries, but I've had #2 just beat up forever. I got a #1. Now we have 3 and 4, so I have completed the Defenders of the Earth. It's always great to see these characters come back here, right? Oh, where am I? Where am I? Got my, yeah, there we go. Yeah, great stuff. And of course, they had to get the kids' sidekicks to get kids to watch it. You know, they thought they did better than having a scrappy doo version of the Phantom. And this is an upgrade. I still have the one from when I was a kid, right? That's how this video is going to end. I have one of the books that I'm going to really talk about stuff at the end here. But I'm a fan of the Squadron Supreme, Squadron Sinister, right? I'm the guy that by the time they finally got around doing a Justice League versus Avengers, I had already had my hopes and dreams and read so much and dug in there and got in there that I was more interested in seeing the Crime Syndicate versus the Squadron Supreme. Squadron Supreme, Squadron Sinister is more or less the Justice League version of Marvel's version of the Justice League, and they've got an assorted history there, if you will, their own dimensions and things like that. But anyway, we had Thor versus Superman. If you squint your eyes real hard, but this is Thor versus Hyperion. I think this is the issue where Thor actually goes to the world of Hyperion, if you will. It's fun stuff, man. There's like little one shots here and there, right? So if you read your Defenders, you're going to find out that Nighthawk is really Batman, but from a world where he was evil, like Owlman, right? There's a Squadron Sinister and a Squadron Supreme. There's 2 different ones, yeah. And Mr. Continuity Roy Thomas was responsible for a lot of that. There's actually a Flash. I think he may have been killed by the Scourge. I don't know, but there's a Flash character called Speed Demon that's in the Marvel Universe, and he's a bad guy, and that's really the Flash, the Wizard. He just changed his name. Yeah. Wayne Boring drew that Thor. What? Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the crew. I'll be damned. All right, little Jimmy Fireball gets 100 Cool Kid points because I'm going to be honest with you, that never registered with me that it's Wayne Boring, the Superman artist of the 50s. And it's the Tom Palmer inks that I noticed. I'm a huge Tom Palmer fan. Well played there, little Jimmy Fireball. This is why I love doing YouTube. This is why I love finding people who read their comic books. Daggone, man. Anytime I talk about this book now, little Jimmy Fireball is going to be mentioned with pointing out that I totally didn't register Wayne Boring doing this book. I love that. Way to go, man. Oh, man. Okay, so these are ones that I cannot believe were $1 a piece. We're getting into some of the good stuff here. Okay, so these are reprints from the 70s. I think there's only 6 or 7 issues of this, but it's Wanted. And as I've gone through my collection trying to rebag them, I seem to have more issues than I thought. And of course, this one has reprints of the Vigilante, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Dr. Fate. And these are probably, I think if I remember right, of course, it says right in the title, these are the villain centric. So that's kind of cool. This has something very cool in it. This giant world's finest. Now, if there's Bronze Age books and it says giant, 100-page giant, 80-page giant, I get those, right? A lot of those book for $50. You know, just off the top of my head, if I was going to make a median average, you know what I mean? $50, you know. And of course, some are worth less, some are worth much more. But in this world's finest, if you look over here, you're going to see there's a Deadman story. Now, if I remember this right, you have one artist drawing the characters, and then they had Neil Adams come in and draw all the figures of Deadman in this. Okay, so you have, you know, two artists doing each page. Neil Adams being Deadman centric. Of course, it has the Super Sons in it and stuff, right? So let's open that up and see if I'm right. Because, of course, for a buck, I mean, this is fantastic. It's in great shape, square bound. A fantastic, that should be, yeah, Alfredo Alcada doing a great advertisement for Kong the Untamed. I have all of those. Like I said, when it comes, I'm serious, man, Challengers of the Unknown, George Tuska and Neil Adams. So George Tuska came in and he's done all the figures that have anything to do with the story of the Challengers. And then Neil Adams has come in and he's drawn all the stuff of Deadman, which I think is very cool. I love stuff like that. This is why I want to get the Tarzan versus Gru, because sort of the same thing happened. And this is actually very Neil Adams light, by the way. George Tuska, yeah. So it looks like, as I'm going through this, there is one panel that I'm beginning to wonder if Neil Adams actually drew special for this, to call it Deadman. I don't know. Oh, there we go. No, never mind. I take it all back. I found it. So there you go. Neil Adams, George Tuska. There you go. So if you're a Neil Adams completist, there you go. Another book. And these cracked me up, right? I've got them downstairs. I've got several comic series. Whitman Comics actually put out 6 issues of a comic, I would say, that had 3 or 4 stories in each one, where they took sci-fi authors and their stories and adapted them, right? Philip K. Dick and Isaac Asimov and things like that. So even before that, Marvel came out. I want to say there was maybe 6 issues of this series. Take that with a grain of salt. But they have Worlds Unknown, right, from Marvel Comics. And each one right on the front tells you that they are doing an adaptation of some sci-fi short stories. A Gun for a Dinosaur, L. Sprague de Camp, one of my favorites sci-fi writers, right? The Day the Earth Stood Still, you know, they do, I guess, the actual story that was made into a movie. All right. Arena by Frederick Brown. Now I don't know if I'm familiar with Frederick Brown, but I remember this cover, right? And then we have, this is the one I see everybody have, right? Black Destroyer, A.E. Vaughns, right? I've seen this, the wolf with a man's face with the tendrils coming out, things like that. And then one that I've always thought was ridiculous. I saw this in so many people's collection going back to 1985. I actually remember the first time I saw this in a guy named Robbie's collection when I was in 7th grade. And I thought this was the stupidest thing I'd seen in comics at that point. Right there was Skate Man. I don't give a shit. And this is right up there. I still think this is stupid. I will read this. If it changes my mind, I'll admit it, but I doubt it's going to, right? But this is from the author of it, Theodore Sturgeon. And what I'm confused about is that it's a scene on TV, but it's Killdozer, the thing called Killdozer. How freaking stupid. But we'll give it a chance. We'll read it. Okay. We'll check it out. Those were all $1, and some of those had a price tag of $15 a piece on them. Bronze Age books from the 70s of Marvel for $1 a piece. That's all in really good shape. Yep, that was while having the classic Superman artist on there, right? And then I have Wizard number 12, right? I don't know what's happened or what the zeitgeist is and stuff, but Wizard number 1 sold for a lot of money now. I've seen it sell for a lot of money and won it. And I've been finding a few of these bagged wizards. I have a huge collection of wizards. I kept my wizard magazines. I ordered out of my wizard magazines the half issues, right? I really enjoyed when Wizard came out up to a point. You know what I mean? It was gold when it came out. I think it had a good 10-year run when it was really good. But anyway, this bagged number 12 is a Jim Lee cover. And that's what was very cool about Wizard. You had top artists doing covers with great articles and all kinds of things in there. Throw that out there. And we are over past the halfway mark. Killdozer is great. There's a guy a couple decades ago who actually made one and went on a rampage. Like I said, if I read it and it changes my mind, I will happily, do this, right? So when it comes to my pulps, all right, this is the series that I think has not been topped. There's been some great adaptations of Tarzan, right? Uh, I have the Tarzan movies. Actually, I watched these serials of Tarzan that were made in the 30s, even the pre-code ones. They used to show them on PBS when I was a kid. You had the Filmation Tarzan in Lone Ranger Hour, right? There was many times I would pretend to be swimming so hard against the current of the river when I would go to the pool, just like Tarzan, right? I would secretly do the yell that I know people heard elsewhere, right? It's been forever, but I've read the actual books and was really surprised with how brutal Tarzan actually was. I have recently been introduced, finally was able to find them. They're over here somewhere, of the Philip Jose Farmer Walt Newton books of Tarzan, if you will, and things like that, right? But one of the things that have always you got your Jack Kirby comics that should be handed out to people like they used to. Look at those pages on how you do a comic. And it was this series after seeing the comics when I was a kid, then actually reading the books later on, and then revisiting these books that I'm like, Joe Kubert shows you how to tell a story, right? But anyway, I'm filling in the DC Tarzan of the Apes books that I do not have. Lester, chill out, man. Chill out. Anyway, so anyway, I'm filling in the gaps and stuff, right? The first, I don't know, 4 issues of this run. And what they did back then is that Gold Key had the license and they went up like, I don't know, I can't remember, over 200 issues. And so people wouldn't be confused. DC Comics didn't start things. Apparently, when a comic switched companies with the license, they didn't change the numbering. They just picked it right up, right? So even though there's no number 1 for this in the Bronze Age there, right? But Joe Kubert was over the line of books, and I think he did a fantastic job. And yes, it kind of went off the rails after Kubert was taken off, right? So these were $1 a piece, getting these Tarzan books, right? And like I said, I've got some from the Joe Kubert years there. After this, they went to Marvel. And a lot of people have talked to me like, those Tarzan books at Marvel, I need to lighten up and not be so hard on them. It comes from just having a love of Tarzan, and that since I was a kid, and not really hating anybody. But, John Buscema did a fantastic job with the annual. I think I got in here, right? This is an upgrade. I think Joe Kubert was long gone by then, but they went ahead and fight a Yeti. Like I said, Bigfoot, Caveman, Pulp, post-apocalyptic. I'm there, I'll get that. And then they had Korak, his son, got a book, which I thought was fantastic. They had a lot of pinups of Edgar Rice Burroughs' other things like Carson of Venus and a few things like that. John Carter, Tarzan, Other Worlds and stuff, Edgar Rice Burroughs. And then they started merging them into Tarzan family. So I always get these giant size books. A lot of these are doubles with the Korak, the books. And I think this was the last issue. It's got Korak, Warlord of Mars, Perpendicular, Monsters Rule the Underground World, David Ines. But yeah, just Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. I want to say this is the last issue. Yeah, this was it, I think, for DC with this license. And then we had Tarzan, the series, come out, and here's an annual that, as you can see, John Buscema delivers, But in my mind, John Buscema, when it comes to this stuff, there's a touch of Frank Frazetta in his work that came out in the 70s, I think, considering that the guy had been doing comics since the 50s, I think. But to me, it's Conan. Anytime there is bare skin, muscles, and dark hair, it's Conan in my eyes. I hate to say that he's typecasted because he's a legend. He and Tom Palmer, one of my favorite ever art teams and stuff, right? So not no disrespect, just an objective critique. Oh man, we got some people here. Hey, Killdozer was a scary movie when I was a kid. The one for me was The Car. I think it was the Duel, the movie. I think that was a Steven Spielberg movie. And then they had one on TV. I don't know if it was a TV movie or what, but it was called The Car, where a car just kept following somebody till it killed them and stuff like that. I think that's where, I don't know. What was that Stephen King movie adaptation that in the 80s with Emilio Estevez and the truck with the Green Goblin face? I even laughed at it. Something about cars come to life. I can't see it. I can tell me a ghost is driving it. Don't tell me they became sentient. You know what I'm saying? I can't get that. God over grind. God of grind. Nice. Good to see you. Meowing at the cat. Comic book curator. I just finished that DC Tarzan run. Fantastic stuff. Yes, it is, sir. Yes, it is. I completely agree. There we go. Sequential Greek is sequential geek. Calm down, Haller. Sequential Geek is here with Maximum Overdrive. That is it. And then he gets breened by Breen with the Maximum Overdrive. Everybody is on it, right? Like I said, I enjoy the movie, but I laugh. There we go. Cheers to you, sir. All right. Now, guys, hold on. Now, these are mid-grade. Mid-grade. Just remember that. These are not mint, what I'm about to show you. But as I said, we were building up. Yeah, good enough. I'm not redoing the stack here, right? But these were out of dollar boxes as well, right? Some Jim Starlin, Power of Warlord. Now, this has a spine roll. Don't get me wrong, like I said, but for $1. Number 8, and number was that 11? Make sure, and number 11. And number 11 is a little bit of a pricey book, and I got to admit, for mid-grade, I still cannot believe these were $1 a piece. These are the books that I'm sitting here going, be glad that you found these for $1 and don't lose sleep over what you missed out on. If this is what people are leaving behind, either there's a bunch of people following these key collector apps and are clueless, or there was better stuff than people were budgeting with, and they decided this was worth leaving behind. Yeah. So that's what we were dealing with at RobCon this year, finding stuff like this after they'd already been picked through and stuff. This is what people were leaving behind. Wow. Okay. Now, this one I'm going to talk about for a minute because I have memories of this and I'm noticing things. I'm very forgiving about this, right? When Joe Quesada came on and had to pull Marvel out of their bankruptcy in 2000, 2001, they'd already filed Chapter 11 before that stuff, right? He wanted to have exciting projects come out, things that he knew would sell, and to pull them out there. And we got the Justice League versus the Avengers. Kurt Busiek, George Perez. George Perez wrote the letter saying he's going exclusive with CrossGen. If this is going to happen, let's do it now, or forget about it. Joe Quesada got a historian in the offices, found out it was a pissing contest between DC and Marvel, worked it out, and we got that. Mark Waid was supposed to be on it, but I think something with CrossGen didn't let him do it. But he was like Kurt Busiek. He's got a handle on this, no problem, right? And then one of the other stunts that they did is they finally revealed the origin of Wolverine. And this is why I'm sitting here bringing this up now, right? Maybe I should do this in a separate video. Maybe somebody should take the clip of this portion of the video and send it to me so I can repost it. I don't know, right? But this is one of the things when you realize you've been collecting comics for a long time. This came out, I think, in 2001. Now, before this is the origin. They've revealed the origin of Wolverine, right? That was a staple. one of the things why people came back and it made Wolverine cool on top of everything else that made him take off, right? But that was one of the things that was part of the Marvel universe is whenever Wolverine popped up in the back of people's minds, was his mysterious origin and little seeds here and there. What could it be? How would it happen? Right. So we get it now. Paul Jenkins is a great writer, so this is not personal. He was hired to tell this story, right? I don't see him pitching it saying, I have this great idea. I think he was approached by Joe Quesada, who's trying to get Marvel out of there, right? But this came out in 2001, 22 years ago, right? And it made me realize that there's a whole era of people who have gotten into comics that didn't live in the era where one of the big mysteries of comic books that made them cool was Wolverine's origin being mysterious that we all shared. One of the things that you knew somebody knew comic books when you talked about it because that's where your mind went when you thought of Wolverine. I also have a really weird memory of this because I remember being at a convention probably a year after this came out. And I was actually there with my first wife and my kid, and we were in that town for a while. And I was just at the convention for like an hour or two, and we all met back up, went out and did stuff. And I remember as I was leaving, there was this younger guy. I mean, I was like 27, 28 at the time, but so this was like a kid, like I'm going to guess 19 or 20, and he had his girlfriend there, and they had a newborn baby. And I was really concerned a little bit because right beside me, he was talking about how he spent $40 on this issue. And now they were worried about like getting diapers. And I'm like, kid, I had to let it go. I was like, oh no, I was like, don't do it. Don't slip them a 20. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, people were investing in this. And I just, after I read it, I actually ended up getting rid of it. I had all 6 issues, read it. So now that baby that I was so worried about, where this guy made the bad choice of investing, he had to have he overpaid for this one issue a year after it came out, that it's not worth that much now. I'm positive, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But now I'm realizing that kid is 21 years old. And that's a whole generation. And that kid grew up in a world of comics where Wolverine's origin was not mysterious. Plus, to me, this was a great story. Paul Jenkins wrote a great story, but this Pride and Prejudice bullshit, this contradiction to a Wolverine origin, uh, it, it fell flat. I did not like it at all. You know what I mean? I was like, what is he doing? It was not Wolverine. It was not the buildup in my head of what a Wolverine origin should be. This was not Wolverine. This is not Wolverine centric as it should be. I was just like, what is this shit? Doing a contradiction of a feral creature like Wolverine, and going Pride and Prejudice with it. I guess that's a good comparison. If you've read it and you can think of another Victorian era story that feel with whatever Paul Jenkins was trying to do, yeah, leave me a comment, but yeah. So anyway, I could have got the whole 6 issues again for $1 a piece, but I was like, nah, number one's good enough. This is just something to have in the collection to say that I had the first one, a little conversation piece. I could actually toss this out the window and be fine right now for $1. Okay, now this is the one I was determined to get this. I thought I bought this book, and then I'm going back because I was getting this run of Thor. I'm still convinced I had the book, but I let it go. It wasn't in my collection. And this is from 1989, 1990. Because I had this whole run of Thor. Then I sold that run of Thor to my brother in the mid 90s with a run of Captain America. But I thought I'd kept this book because it was so cool. I got to see Juggernaut versus Thor, right? And then it wasn't in my collection. I'm like, you know what? Maybe my brother bought it because he was into the Acts of Vengeance crossover that was going on, right? I was into Inferno and all that other stuff, right? And then like, maybe I'm just making a mistake. And then last year at a convention where I'm like, I might want to get this book for the nostalgic person. Yes, it's a key. Get me wrong, right? So I went to Salem. I went to one of my conventions I went to for years, and I had my routine. I knew some of the dealers, and this one time I didn't go to the original dealer. Are you okay? You don't look happy. What's wrong? You're fine. Do you get enough sleep? Okay. So anyway, I disrupted my stream and I went back to this one dealer that I usually, would hit first and stuff. And of course, I see a guy that I know from the conventions going through the boxes right beside of me, and he pulls it out for $1. And I'm like, I missed my shot. Then I go to this convention and I find it for $1. And of course, this movie is taken off. This book is taken off and stuff because it's the first cameo appearance of the New Warriors. But yeah, Thor 411. Just one of those things where it was a weird, wild hunt, and now it's done. Okay, Yalnor versus the Jewel of Sidrak or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. People seem to forget that this is Xavier's stepbrother. You know, has ties to Doctor Strange with the naming of magic jewels and things like that. So yeah, we got that for a buck, right? And then this is turning into one of my favorite series to read. All right, I love how they look square bound. I love how they look on a shelf because you put them together, they start making skulls. I think there was 20 issues of this in the early 90s. As far as horror book goes, uh, if you like your Vertigo stuff, Epic came through the Epic line of comics, but Clive Barker's Hellraiser books, anthology series, 2 or 3 stories in each one. And this is number 18, which is very important because number 17 has an early out. Make sure I'm getting my numbers right. Yeah, has an Alex Ross cover, which is, a bit. People chase that one down because it's early Alex Ross. But this has part 2 of the story with Alex Ross art in it, which just shows me people don't read their comics, or they'd be after this one as well to finish off that one. They just want it because it's an early Alex Ross cover. But Neil Gaiman ended up coming on this book. David Lloyd, Clive Barker himself apparently is in this one. Yeah, they had a lot of people come through here and write these Clive Barker-esque Hellraiser stories. Some were better than others and stuff, but yeah, I find these very satisfying. I've got 2 volumes that they came over with best of the Clive Barker's Hellraiser. I'm pretty sure it's just all 20 issues. I don't know, but yeah, these are fantastic to find when you can find them. Okay. And I always blow my mind. I get it. I get it. The bloom is off the rose. The series has been around since 1986 and 87. They've reprinted it to death. They raped and pillaged it. They made a horrible, well, we'll say 65% of the episodes were horrible for HBO Max's sequel to the actual book. I enjoy the ultimate cut of the movie. I don't care, but it always blows my mind. And it seems to always be this issue. Uh-oh. The camera just messed up. There we go. Of Watchmen. I keep finding issue number 3. This is like my 4th or 5th copy for a buck. So this makes me wonder, what did I miss in that dollar box? You know what I'm saying? If that's what's left behind. Now this one I did pay, I think, $5 for, but this is the last issue of From Hell, the epilogue issue of Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell's From Hell book that I thoroughly enjoy. I'm just piecing that together as I find them. I'm not going to tell the story. I don't want to be hard on the kid, but when I found this in the dollar boxes and stuff, this kid, maybe I caught him in a moment. I don't think he meant the way he said it. Maybe, he was a little stressed out trying to get through the books with everybody coming through there. He's young, right? But anyway, this one kid thought he had found all the issues of V for Vendetta, and then I found number 8, I think, out of 10 of these. And I think I have 2 complete sets of this anyway, but I went ahead and got it. But at the moment, the kid sort of had a tone to where I was like, I'm just going to keep it, leave my stack. Ran into the kid a little bit later. I think I just caught him in a moment now that I'm thinking about it. And here's a key book that if you go to eBay, you're going to pay too much, but I think it's died down a little bit after the decline of these Marvel properties and stuff. But this was the first issue of a story called The Kong Dynasty. I have one I found in another dollar box, but Alan Davis cover. This was hot for a while. People were overpaying for it. It's a $3 book. And are you okay? Okay. But anyway, I found another one of those. I can never find issue 50 of this run. And here's number 40 to go through there. Great series, Kurt Busiek. Then I couldn't find this one for a buck, Supergirl. It was like adventure comics from the 70s. And I always talk about over the years, I've run into people who just collect Supergirl comics. And this is the stuff they get. It blows my mind that just when I think they're gone and that it was of the era or things like that, I'll run into somebody. And I've actually had 2 people over the years tell me that they're one of those people that collect the Supergirl books. Didn't even know they watched my channel, let alone know them, which was funny. So where are we at here? More lock, make sure I've shown everything. I think we're at the end except for this last book, guys. This is the one I want to talk about a little bit. Oh, what we got here? Interesting. You found From Hell for a Buck. I never find those ever in the regular book issues of the shops. The only one I didn't buy for a buck, and I got to look at my app wherever it's at. But I've been piecing them together. Probably in the last 5 or 6 years, if I had to guess. It's a good thing I put these on YouTube, right? But the only one that I think I got number one, and I actually got it off some live auction on Instagram. I don't even remember what the channel was, but I know I killed them because when they held it up, I started asking questions. People usually just claim it. And I'm like, is that a first print? I was like, is it mint? Things like that. Because that's the only time I ever bought something off an Instagram live auction. And I think I got it for $10, which included shipping, I believe, right? The rest of them I pieced together. I only need like 3 or 4 issues. Same thing with Immortal Hulk. I think I've gotten like 35 issues or more of that series for $1 a piece at flea markets and stuff, or dollar boxes. It's all about patience. All right. Comic book curator, love that groovy Supergirl outfit. Awesome. And wasn't Power Girls look based off that era? Oh. Wally Wood, and I'm trying to think who the other artist was. I had a joke going on when they were doing All Star Comics and introduced Power Girl and got her going and stuff. Every issue, they kept making her boobs bigger until the editors caught it and they wanted to see how far they could go. That's what I remember about Power Girl, you know. Who here has ever read Pride and Prejudice? I had to read Pride and Prejudice, and it was the only book in the first book where I found the cliff notes and lied because I thought it was horrible. Oh. That and the Scarlet Letter, I thought those were horrible. More like Joe. There we go. Sequential Geek, more like Wuthering Heights. I can go with that. The Emily Bronte homage in ways is very cool. Okay, all right. I'm out of my area there, man, but I asked for it. Thank you. Okay. So this book, right? I've talked about the handful of books that hooked me as a kid that I can actually remember sitting down and reading. I had all this glut of comics and stuff that were in paper bags, grocery store bags, Conan magazines, Savage Tales magazines, Silver Age books. I remember my first X-Men book I read was X-Men #3. That's the first appearance of the Blob, and then to jump up and see the Dark Phoenix saga in the house. You know what I mean? Like that was quite a culture. Whoa, Spider-Man books and things like that. But there's things like Thor Annual #5. I think that's what it is. The one with the Guardians of the Galaxy in it. I could have all these downstairs. If I was downstairs doing this, I had them on a shelf and I was pulling it out. But I got like a What If Conan Walked the Earth Today from 1980. There's a handful of books to where like these were the ones I loved, right? And this is actually one of the first books that I know I read. Had to be 1978. This book came out in 1973. And it was my first Swamp Thing book. And the interesting thing about Swamp Thing 1 and 2, just a little trivia there, is a lot of people want the House of Mystery as the first appearance of Swamp Thing, right? Well, that's not the Alec Holland Swamp Thing. That's a Swamp Thing from 100 years before. This is what blows my mind. The Swamp Thing that is very popular now is Swamp Thing #1, which is Alec Holland with the origin and everything like that. So it really blows my mind that the House of Mystery, was it 94, 92, 91, whatever, is the one that everybody goes for when it's Alec Holland they love, right? And as a man who absolutely loves the Alan Moore Swamp Thing, where he changed everything, where it's not Alec Holland being turned into a vegetable man, it was planarian worms that eat things, retain their memory. And when this Swamp Thing elemental, this version of the elemental of the green, was being created, it absorbed the memories of Alec Holland like a planarian worm, right? So this issue actually is the one that I cannot remember ever being acknowledged, because it would kill what Alan Moore did, right? But this was like the first Swamp Thing book I read. And I think I put it on Instagram, but the Unmen are in this. And there's a character that they finally said that his name was the Brain. And he's a deformed head with a hand under his neck. And that's how he walks around. And he's the one giving the orders. At 5 years old, this book had a huge effect on me, right? This was the one that, like, I'm a comic book fan, I guess, right? This is the one I kept going back and reading out of all the Swamp Thing books that were in the house. This is the one. And I pulled the trigger. I got this for $23. Odd number, I know, but I think the guy did the math and said, but I talked him down. Um, and I just went ahead and pulled the trigger. This is one of those books I keep going back to. This is one of the books I remember sitting down and reading it. This is one of the books that, yes, I backed up. I rarely do this, but this is one of the few times I bought back a piece of my childhood. So, yeah, very happy to get this. This is a big deal for me in my collecting. Even if I wasn't collecting comics and I ran across this, I would still be tracking this one down, you know. But yeah, very happy to have this one. This one is getting put up. This was immediately rebagged. I started reading it. There's no reason to read it because I remember it, you know. Of course, I've got it in a trade somewhere downstairs. I've got it in a DC special or whatever it was in the late 70s. There's 2 issues where they reprinted the Lin Bernie Wrightson stuff, signed by Bernie Wrightson when he was at Heroes Con probably about 10 years ago, 2014 or something. It's in a video. So, yeah, now I have the actual #2, not the actual book I had in my hands, but we're never going to find that. It's probably disintegrated over the years and stuff, right? So there you go. That's the one, right? And why does this contradict? Why does this contradict what Alan Moore did with the thing? Because right in the second issue, they went ahead and turned Swamp Thing back into human Alec Holland for a few pages. So I don't recall any story, and if you know of the story, let me know. But I don't recall any story explaining how the Elemental was able to turn back into Alec Holland. It was never mentioned. This kind of glossed over. You know, people suspended their belief. Alan Moore was writing such a great story. Why question it? You know what I mean? You were caught up in his story. You weren't thinking history. All right, a few more comments, and then we got to go. I got to get my day going. Maybe get a little. Maybe I'll make some pancakes. I don't know. I don't know. Uh, I still can't believe Pride and Prejudice and zombies is a thing. Right on. Big thing in this house is Abraham Lincoln and the Vampire Hunter. You know, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. And we got Doug Wheeler's Quest of the Elementals in a Trip. I read it a few weeks ago. I wish there was interior artist was better with lots of references to Holland's memories and how they were 2 parliaments. Doug, okay, I know what you're talking about. It took me a minute. Okay. I'll double check that. I'm wondering if I have that downstairs. Oh, Nancy Collins, Doug Wheeler. I'm trying to think when that is. That was around the first like 101 to 110 or something? I don't know. I could see it in my head. Yeah, that was like the early hundreds, I think. Doug Wheeler, poor guy. Maybe it was the 90s, issue 90s. Anyway, after Rick Vetch comes on, I've kind of like gotten rid of most of those issues. The Moore stuff and the Rick Veitch stuff is the stuff I like. I even got rid of the Mark Miller, Grant Morrison stuff, man. Doug Wheeler, poor guy. No win situation, you know. So, okay, guys, that's it. Be excellent to each other. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And like I said, if you're in the Bristol, Virginia, Tennessee area and stuff, they're starting up, I think, 30 minutes ago, I think, for the second day. Terry Moore, Charles Vess are there. I made to put on Instagram pictures of the books I got Terry Moore to sign for me. And we got the other cat here wanting some love. Come here. Yeah. Say hello, Shiva. This is Shiva the Destroyer. Yes. Tuxedo cat, complete with. Is it going to show up? She's got her bow tie on with her tuxedo. All right. Say goodbye. She's purring even though you can't hear it. All right, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. One last comment, and we're out. You may find the lore they explained for that as of 104 to be helpful for what it's worth. 104. All right. Thank you, man. Okay. Have a great weekend. Have a great September. Be excellent to each other.